Patrician is a game that seems to be a remake of an older one, but I haven't played the original game, so I won't be able to compare. I discovered about Patrician Towers of Influence completely by chance, because next year we'll be teaching a class about the Italian Renaissance in Florence, and so I'm looking for games on that topic, potentially to include in my classroom activities, if I find games that exemplify important elements of the topic we're studying, or simply to play with the students outside of class, because playing games is fun. And so Patrician Towers of Influence represents political struggles around significant cities of the Italian late Middle Ages and Renaissance. Each city has its own mini-map, as you can see. It has two places where we will be building the towers, placing wooden pieces representing different layers of the tower, and yes, totally okay to place tokens of different colors in the same spot, like in the same tower. Each city will have up to 2 towers, and each city also has 2 scoring tokens of different values. One is always better than the other. Each city has a numeral number there. We'll see where that is important. And then each city has a spot where you will place a face-up card from that deck. My only complaint about the production, because the map looks really nice, is that you're supposed to cover the names of the cities with the card, and that makes the game just feel a lot less fun and more abstract. So I'm showing you the game with the cards placed offset that way so you can read the names, because that's how I played the game. Each player has a hand of 3 cards, and then, well, once you set up things like this, you're ready to start. Of course, each player will have 1 color of tower tokens. So, when it is your turn, you play a card. These cards will have at least a coat of arms, but sometimes they have 2. They will have at least a portrait at the bottom, but sometimes they have more than 1. And also, they have a portrait at the bottom, or they may also have an icon that represents a special action that is resolved when you play the card. So suppose it's my turn, I decide to play a card, I will play it in the city of the coat of arms or coats of arms. So for example, we're going to Ferrara here. I play the card in a personal face-up pile in my play area, so probably this will be closer to me in real. And then I place in that city the corresponding number of layers corresponding to the number of coats of arms, which is always going to be 1 or 2. When I place a new level of a tower, I can place it in either of the spaces there. If I have a card that allows me to place 2, then I can choose to place them on the same tower or in 2 different towers like that. Yeah, suppose that has happened. Booyah, for example. And so I played my card, I added those layers. If I have one of these cards with this kind of symbol, I can activate its effect. And then I take the card from the city where I just added something, leave 1, take 1. And then we replenish that from the general deck, and so this would be my new hand of cards. Maybe next time I decided that I want to play this card here for Bologna, and so I place 2 tokens here, I collect that one. And so as you can see, where you build also will influence where you can build next. Now, there's a small Roman numeral next to each city, and that represents the maximum number of layers of towers or floors that can be placed there. When you reach that number, the city is scored, and then it pretty much goes out of the game. So we are ready now. We are ready to score this city because that's the total number, 5 for 5. We're good. If we're looking at the shorter of the tallest and the shortest. The player who has majority in the tallest tower will get the token with the higher value. In this case, red gets 5. And the player who has majority in the smaller tower gets the other token. What if there is a tie, like in this case, then the player who is closest to the top, between the tied players. In the case, for example, red wins, not because they are majority, but because they tie and they're closer to the top. In this situation, red takes the 5 and blue takes the 2. So we assign those tokens, and that's the way that goes. We simply continue until all cards have been played, and at that point the game is over. All of these tokens will have been assigned to players, and we're almost done. But now remember that face-up pile that you prepared as you were playing the cards. Now we'll look at matching sets of 3 portraits. So not cards with a portrait, because some have multiple ones, but actually portraits. For example, this would be a set of 3 portraits. Each matching set of 3 of the same portrait gives you 6 victory points to add to the points that you hopefully have already scored collecting some of these tokens. The game also comes with 2 mini expansions. In one, you're gonna have cards that will allow players to score extra points if they collect specific sets of tokens, giving more value again to different kinds of tokens. And another one is one where you will place tokens representing robbers or representing traders. As robbers and traders operate in the space between cities, these symbols here is where you place those tokens, and they will impact negatively or positively the value of the 2 cities they're adjacent to. So the value of those cities will change if they're connected to the activities of robbers and or traders. But that's so you had two variants around the general idea of play a card, put down some towers, collect the card usually from the spot where you placed it, unless you have an icon that lets you do something different. Like this one, you can take it from a different city. Score cities from time to time, and that's the idea. That's how you play Patrician Towers of Influence. What a serendipitous, fortuitous discovery this has been, just because I was looking for games about the Renaissance. Otherwise, I just hadn't crossed paths with this game, neither the original nor this new version. But Patrician Towers of Influence had turned out to be very successful on my game night, and I enjoyed very much. And I enjoyed as a change of pace from so many other nicer games that we have had these days. Personally, I like cooperative games very much, solo games, multiplayer, solo. I don't like competition so much, maybe still because I remember from the 80s and the 90s, that is what it used to be. Playing a game meant to have a chance of being mean to your friends and they were trying to be mean to you. I like the games have become friendlier, but I also like that some of the modern lessons of game design, the simplicity, the elegance, a smooth engine, can be applied to me, what is a meaner, backstabbing diversion. So maybe at the end of a game night where everybody has been cooperating, here you have now a game where, oh no, it's mean. It's mean because you're gonna play a certain card, so you get majority in a certain tower, and you get to tie in another tower, but you're on top, and that is the floor that triggers the scoring of the tower. Maybe both towers belong to the same player. Maybe the player should have tried not to attract so much attention there, attracting this kind of like response, but it happened. And so it's gonna be, oh, sorry, you're gonna hate me for this, but I'm gonna do it anyways, and I'm gonna kind of like look very, very happy as I do it. So there's gonna be a lot of that, which is again perfectly fine, at least for me, as a bit of a diversion. Here it says ages 8 and up. Sure, if you want to see your 8-year-old cry, then perfect. Teach about history and the Renaissance, have them cry. That's gonna build character. That's perfectly fine. The components look nice, other that for the fact that the cards cover the names of the cities. It may not be a game that teaches a ton about the Italian Renaissance, but it's a game that is fun to play because it's so simple, so elegant, yet it has a very nice strategy behind, because there are several layers of decision that you have to take into account. There is where you're placing the towers, of course, with the timing of it. Again, being the one who almost triggers the end of the game may be dangerous, because then almost triggers the scoring of a city, may be dangerous because then somebody does the final step and they win the ties from you. And as you build in a city, you're also trying to figure out, of course, what card that gives you back. So where you will be allowed to expand your influence later. It's not bad to keep an eye on those portraits because they can give you some good scoring later. There is a number of small but very nice, very elegant strategic elements to consider here that make the game fun and rewarding to play. Again, a little meaner, a little more confrontation than a lot of games of the last couple of years, and maybe that betrays a little bit that this in Origin is an older game, but from the point of view of the game engine, it is very smooth, definitely very modern and very effective. So, for the occasional little quick diversion, a game that you can teach very easily and play just as easily, then Patrician Towers of Influence is a fun little game.